Today, when most of us begin our mornings the same way, a faint buzz on the nightstand, a rectangle of glass lighting up our faces before the sun itself rises. We don't even think. We swipe, we scroll, we connect. Within minutes, we know the headlines from 5 continents. We see the weather for the week, the traffic on our commute, the stock market's opening bell. We can message a friend across the ocean, send an emoji, and hear their reply before we've taken a sip of water. For billions of people, this feels as natural as breathing. The internet is not simply a tool anymore. It is an organ, a second nervous system, grafted onto humanity. But imagine, just for a moment, if this organ had never formed. Imagine if the invisible web that ties us together simply did not exist. No emails, no instant messaging, no streaming video. Every connection delayed by distance, every discovery slowed by silence. What would that world look like? Would it be calmer? Would it be safer? Or would it be a world left behind? The story begins not in Silicon Valley, not in a dorm room or a garage, but in the shadow of fear. The year is 1962. The Cold War is at its height. In Washington and Moscow, men in suits wonder if nuclear bombs fall, if phone lines are cut, if cities burn. How do we keep control? How do we make sure orders still reach soldiers? How do we make sure scientists can still share what they know? The answer becomes a gamble, an experiment known as ARPANET. It begins humbly. 4 computers connected by thick cables, rooms humming with machines the size of refrigerators. It is clumsy, fragile, and at first, utterly unimpressive. A few academics send messages. A few data packets crawl through the wires. To most of the world, it is invisible, a toy for scientists. And yet, from those fragile sparks, the fire spreads. By the 1980s, ARPANET has grown into a loose network of universities and research labs. Email emerges as the first killer app. Suddenly, a message that once took days or weeks arrives in seconds. For the scientists and students lucky enough to have access, it feels like magic. In the 1990s, the World Wide Web is born. It is clunky. It is slow. Pages take minutes to load. But for the first time, ordinary people can see into this hidden network. A teenager in their bedroom can build a website. A teacher can upload class notes. A family can read news from another country without waiting for the morning paper. And then, the 2000s arrive. The giants rise: Google, Facebook, YouTube. What began as a Cold War insurance policy becomes the pulse of global culture. By the 2010s, the internet is no longer a novelty, it is oxygen. Entire industries depend on it. Entire generations grow up never knowing life without it. The internet becomes the stage where politics unfold, where revolutions ignite, where relationships are born and broken. And today, it is nearly impossible to imagine life without it. But that is exactly what we must do. This story, this journey, asks the forbidden question: what if the internet was never invented? What if ARPANET had remained just an idea in a filing cabinet? What if a budget meeting in 1969 had ended with the words, "too expensive"? What if the cables had been cut, the experiments abandoned, the dream left to gather dust? Picture it. The year is 2025. But in this alternate reality, there is no Google to search, no Amazon to shop, no Facebook, no Twitter, no YouTube. The average home has phones, yes, but they are attached to walls. News arrives not in seconds, but tomorrow morning, ink smudged on paper. A letter from New York to Tokyo still takes a week. A disease outbreak in one city remains a mystery to the rest of the world until it is too late. And the billions of voices that today compete for attention fall silent. For many, this sounds almost peaceful. No endless notifications, no addictive scrolling, no midnight spirals into feeds designed to steal our sleep. But peace has a price. Slower rescues, slower cures, narrower dreams. Imagine a natural disaster striking a small town. Today, within minutes, hashtags trend, rescue efforts organize, donations pour in. In the offline world, the disaster remains a local tragedy until someone prints it days later. Help arrives, too late. Imagine a young student in a village with big ideas but no resources. Today, they can watch lectures from MIT or Oxford on YouTube. They can email mentors, download textbooks, join study groups with strangers across continents. In the offline world, their world is the size of their nearest library, and that library may not even exist. This is the world we are about to explore, a world where communication crawls, where economies move slower, where politics are controlled more tightly, where science loses decades of progress, where culture grows proud but isolated, where relationships are shaped not by choice, but by geography. Through these lenses, communication, education, commerce, politics, science, culture, and love, we will explore the profound consequences of an invention that never was. This is not a story about technology. It is a story about us, about who we are when we are disconnected, and so our journey begins. Without the internet, our voices shrink. They return to wires and envelopes, to stamps and waiting. A birthday wish is no longer a ping on your phone at midnight. It is a card mailed days before, arriving late, ink already fading. Business negotiations crawl. A contract is printed, signed, couriered, delayed. Urgency becomes patience. Distance regains its power. News slows down. In our world, a headline can circle the globe in seconds. In that world, the morning paper rules again. The evening broadcast becomes the national campfire. Picture it, millions of people at the same hour, hearing the same anchor, the same frame, the same silence. No breaking news alerts on your phone. No live streams from witnesses on the ground. A revolution, an earthquake, a war. None of these break, they arrive. Hours late, days, sometimes weeks later. And in crises, this delay becomes deadly. Imagine an earthquake striking a coastal town. Today, we would see trembling buildings live. We would hear voices crying for help. Rescue teams would coordinate within hours. Donations would pour in overnight. But in a disconnected world, the first day is silence, the second day is rumors, the third day is a headline in the morning paper. By then, the rubble is colder, the chances of survival slimmer. Silence is not neutral. Silence kills. Now let us shift to entertainment. No viral videos, no late-night uploads, no small creators filming from their bedrooms. Instead, radio programs, cinema marquees, television schedules, culture filtered through a handful of gates. Executives in suits decide what millions will watch, listen to, and talk about. Choice narrows, discovery slows. The long tail of creativity, those countless niche voices that today thrive online, never grows. Imagine a musician with a strange new sound. Today, they upload a track, and within days, fans find them from Sao Paulo to Seoul. In the offline world, that same musician plays only to whoever fits inside a smoky bar in their hometown. Their genius never escapes the walls. Would misinformation shrink without social media? Perhaps, but so would correction. Today, when a rumor spreads online, fact-checkers publish within hours. Global watchdogs respond in real time. In the disconnected world, a government's version of events can dominate for weeks before opposition even gathers ink. Propaganda finds not volume, but longevity. A lie, once printed, lingers unchallenged. By the time correction arrives, the lie is already law. Think smaller now. Think personal. Imagine your daily conversations without the internet. You come home, sit by the phone attached to the wall, and wait. No video calls, no group chats, no instant replies. If your friend has moved abroad, you may never speak again, except for the occasional letter carried over oceans. Distance is once again a wall, not a window. Families gather differently. Instead of everyone scrolling in silence, they gather around radios, TVS, and dinner tables. That closeness feels nostalgic, even romantic, but choice is limited. Connections are fewer. The circle of life shrinks to who is near, not who is dear. The internet gave billions a megaphone. Some used it wisely, some abused it. But without it, those megaphones vanish. A teenager blogging their experience of war, silent. A villager documenting a flood, invisible. A protester recording abuse of power, erased before they are ever heard. What remains are the old gatekeepers, newspapers, radio stations, television anchors, a few voices shaping the minds of millions. Powerful voices, but few. Of course, there are trade-offs. Without the endless feed of distractions, perhaps people would read more books. Perhaps attention spans would lengthen. Perhaps neighbors would speak more often. But the price of that quiet is high. The silence is comforting only until disaster strikes. Only until corruption spreads unchallenged. Only until the world needs voices louder than those who already hold the microphone. Communication and media define how we see the world. With the internet, that view is messy, noisy, overwhelming. Without it, the view is narrow, slow, controlled. Neither is perfect. But one thing is clear. In a world without the internet, we are not only disconnected from each other, we are disconnected from truth itself, and that silence is dangerous. Without the internet, the classroom looks very different. Desks in rows, chalk on blackboards, heavy textbooks carried from home. Knowledge is locked inside walls, passed down from one teacher, one book, one library. A student in a small town studies only what is available locally. If the library is outdated, their knowledge is outdated. If the teacher has never seen the latest discoveries, the students never will either. Contrast this with our connected world. Today, a child in a remote village can stream a lecture from MIT, download a textbook from Oxford, or join a digital study group spanning 4 continents. But without the internet, that village remains closed. Education stops at the edge of town. Universities change as well. Without the internet, research is slower, far slower. Imagine a scientist working on a new medicine. Today, they can search thousands of journals instantly. They can email colleagues across the world, share data, collaborate in real time. But in the offline world, every article must be mailed. Every data set copied onto disks, packaged, shipped. By the time results arrive, months have passed and discoveries elsewhere have already moved on. Innovation stalls. Diseases linger longer. Technology crawls forward instead of sprinting. Now picture the workplace. In our world, remote work exploded after the pandemic. Teams scattered across continents meet every morning on video calls, sharing documents in seconds. In the disconnected world, such collaboration is impossible. Business shrinks back to the size of a building, a town, a city. Global projects? Unthinkable. If your partner is across the ocean, every letter takes a week, every correction takes another. Deadlines stretch into months. This changes who gets hired and where. Without the internet, companies recruit only locally. Talent pools shrink. A genius in one country may never find a place to work abroad, not because they are unqualified, but because no one ever hears of them. Job seekers depend on bulletin boards, local newspapers, and word of mouth. The dream of applying for a job online, of sending a resume across the globe in seconds, vanishes. And so inequality deepens. Those in wealthy cities with large universities and major employers still find opportunity. But those outside the centers of power are left behind. Entire regions stagnate. Entire generations see their dreams limited not by talent, but by geography. Think of women entering the workforce. In our world, the internet opened doors. Remote jobs, online businesses, flexible work. Without it, many are pushed back into traditional roles, cut off from opportunities beyond their neighborhood. Think of entrepreneurs. In our world, a teenager with a laptop can start a company that reaches millions. Without the internet, their ideas never leave the garage. Every small business is chained to a physical location, limited to the customers who can walk through the door. Education and work are the engines of progress. With the internet, those engines run hot, loud, and fast. Without it, they sputter, they grind, they slow entire societies down. Imagine the world 20 years into this alternate timeline. Students in rural schools still read decades-old textbooks. Workers never hear about jobs beyond their city limits. Innovators never connect with collaborators who could unlock their breakthroughs. Billions of human minds remain isolated, never realizing their potential. And here lies the greatest tragedy. In a world without the internet, human progress is not only slower, it is smaller, it is confined. It is a map full of blank spaces where connections should have been. Education and work are not luxuries. They are the roots of everything we build. And in this world, those roots are starved. Without the internet, the marketplace looks very different. No online shopping carts, no overnight deliveries, no scrolling through thousands of options with a single click. Instead, people return to crowded bazaars, local shops, and long catalogs delivered by mail. Choices shrink, prices rise. A product made in one country rarely reaches another unless carried by ships, stacked in warehouses, and sold in brick-and-mortar stores. Today, a family in Brazil can order toys from China. A student in Kenya can buy used books from the United States. A small business in Italy can sell handmade crafts to Japan. But in the offline world, trade shrinks to regional networks. Globalization slows. Big companies dominate even more. Without the democratizing force of the internet, small businesses remain trapped in their towns, never reaching wider audiences. The marketplace becomes less diverse, less competitive. Innovation suffers. Think about advertising. In our world, a single social media campaign can reach millions for a fraction of the cost of television ads. Without the internet, only the richest companies can afford to spread their message widely. Television, radio, and billboards become the only options. The cost of attention skyrockets. Now picture consumers. In our world, comparison shopping is instant. 2 clicks, 10 reviews, a decision. In the offline world, consumers must trust what local sellers claim. There are fewer choices and less transparency. Scams and faulty products linger longer because word of mouth travels slowly. Consider banking and finance. Without the internet, ATMs still exist, but mobile banking vanishes. A farmer cannot transfer money from their phone. A worker abroad cannot send wages home instantly. Every transaction requires lines, paper, stamps, signatures. Global remittances shrink. Families struggle. Stock markets slow as well. Today, billions of dollars move in fractions of a second. In the offline world, trades crawl by phone calls, faxes, and couriers. Investment becomes sluggish. The global economy loses its pulse. Even simple things change. In our world, coupons arrive in email. Flash sales last minutes. Without the internet, discounts return to paper slips in newspapers and magazines. Shoppers flip pages instead of scrolling screens. Now imagine the pandemic without the internet. E-commerce became a lifeline. Groceries delivered, medicines ordered, masks shipped to doorsteps. Without online marketplaces, lockdowns would have starved local economies. People would risk exposure just to buy essentials. Supply chains would choke, And for small businesses, the cost is devastating. In our world, a cafe can survive by selling gift cards online, by launching delivery through apps, by advertising digitally to loyal customers. In the disconnected world, that cafe simply closes, shutters down, dreams deferred. Economy and shopping may sound ordinary, but they define survival. They decide which families eat, which businesses thrive, which nations prosper. With the internet, opportunity spreads across borders. Without it, opportunity is confined. Wealth pools in capitals. The rest wait in line. This alternate world is not just inconvenient, it is unequal. It is slower, harsher, narrower. And in such a world, every purchase, every loaf of bread, every pair of shoes, every book, carries the weight of distance, delay, and exclusion. Without the internet, politics moves differently. Campaigns are slower, speeches travel by television, and debates reach the public only through newspapers or radio. There is no live stream, no instant fact check, no viral clip to inspire or to expose. In our world, a single tweet can spark a movement. Without the internet, those sparks are smothered before they spread. Grassroots organizing becomes almost impossible. Protests are smaller, scattered, easier to silence. Authoritarian regimes thrive in this silence. Without online watchdogs, abuses of power remain hidden longer. In our world, a video can topple a dictator's reputation overnight. In the disconnected world, that video never leaves the room where it was filmed. The regime controls the narrative, and the truth suffocates. Elections change as well. Today, candidates reach millions through social media, bypassing traditional gatekeepers. Without the internet, campaigns depend on television ads and rallies in town squares. This favors the wealthy, the powerful, those who can buy airtime and fill stadiums. Voices of outsiders, reformers, and underdogs are drowned out. Think of corruption. Today, documents leak online within minutes, spread by journalists across borders. In the offline world, such leaks may never happen. Whistleblowers are isolated, stories are buried. By the time corruption is exposed, it may already be too late. International relations slow as well. In our world, governments negotiate in real time, exchanging drafts, data, and agreements instantly. Without the internet, diplomats wait for couriers, coded telegrams, phone calls vulnerable to cuts. Peace talks drag on for months instead of weeks. Crises escalate while letters cross oceans. Society itself feels the difference. Without the internet, public opinion is shaped by a handful of voices, anchors, editors, politicians. There is less noise, but also less diversity. Citizens consume what is chosen for them, not what they seek themselves. Now imagine the Arab Spring without the internet. No hashtags, no viral footage of protests, no international solidarity organized online. Local movements remain local. Revolutions are crushed before the world even knows they began. This world is quieter, yes, but it is also darker. Silence benefits those already in power. Noise, as messy as it is, empowers the powerless. And so without the internet, society changes. Communities turn inward. Borders grow taller. Governments grow stronger. Citizens weaker. Politics and society do not vanish. They simply tilt away from the people and back toward the few. Without the internet, science advances at a crawl. Today, researchers can scan entire databases in seconds, compare results across continents, and publish findings instantly. In the disconnected world, journals arrive by mail. Data is shipped on disks. Collaboration takes months, sometimes years. Imagine a global health crisis without the internet. A virus emerges in one city. Today, scientists post genetic sequences online within hours. Labs across the world begin work immediately, and vaccines follow in record time. In the offline world, weeks pass before another country even hears of the outbreak. By then, the virus has spread silently, unchecked. Lives are lost not because cures do not exist, but because knowledge travels too slowly. Now think of medicine. Today, doctors consult databases, share scans, and join virtual conferences. Without the internet, diagnosis depends only on local expertise. A rare disease may go unrecognized simply because no one nearby has seen it before. Patients suffer. Families wait for answers that never come. Consider space exploration. In our world, telescopes stream terabytes of data, shared instantly with teams worldwide. In the disconnected world, only a few nations with massive budgets can participate. The dream of a global scientific community shrinks to a handful of capitals. Innovation slows across every field. Climate change research, artificial intelligence, clean energy, all of it depends on fast, open communication. Without the internet, breakthroughs scatter like puzzle pieces locked in separate rooms, never forming the bigger picture. And beyond research, public health falters. Today, governments issue alerts online, boil water advisories, heat warnings, evacuation notices. Without the internet, those warnings spread slowly, often too late. Communities suffer not only from disasters, but from ignorance. The internet does not solve every problem, but it shortens the distance between problem and solution. It shrinks the gap between suffering and relief. Without it, science is slower, health is weaker, and humanity pays the price. Without the internet, culture spreads slowly. Today, a song released in Seoul can be heard in New York within hours. A film from Nigeria can stream in Paris the same night. Without the internet, culture stays local, bound by borders, carried only by ships, tapes, and television networks. Trends take years instead of days. A fashion in Milan may never reach Mexico. A slang phrase in Los Angeles remains unknown in London. Global culture fractures into isolated islands. For some, this seems charming. Local traditions remain strong. Communities preserve their dialects, their music, their dances without the flood of outside influence. But this preservation comes at the cost of exchange. The world is less colorful because it is less connected. Now think of relationships. In our world, people meet online through apps, forums, games. Friendships cross oceans. Romances blossom across borders. Without the internet, relationships shrink to geography. You know only those who live near you. Your chances of finding like-minded souls diminish. For LGBTQ communities, this loss is devastating. Online spaces provide support, identity, safety. Without them, isolation deepens. Voices go unheard, lives become lonelier, even families change. Today, grandparents can video call grandchildren continents away. Without the internet, they exchange letters that take weeks, or phone calls too expensive for daily use. Distance grows heavier. Art suffers too. A painter in Peru can upload work online and find admirers worldwide. Without the internet, their art hangs unseen in a local gallery, never crossing borders. The same is true for writers, comedians, teachers, countless voices locked behind walls of distance. Culture thrives on exchange. Without it, imagination narrows. Without it, humanity feels smaller. And relationships, those threads of love, friendship, and identity, become fragile. Without the internet, we are left with fewer chances, fewer choices, fewer connections. This is not only a technical loss, it is an emotional one. A world without the internet is not just quieter, it is lonelier. A world without the internet is not an empty world. It is a world of radios and letters, of newspapers and waiting. It is slower, quieter, more local, but it is also harsher, smaller, more unequal. Through these 8 lenses, communication, education, commerce, politics, science, culture, and relationships, we have glimpsed the cost of disconnection. The internet is not perfect. It is messy, noisy, addictive, overwhelming. But it is also the greatest connector humanity has ever built. It gives the powerless a voice. It gives the isolated a community. It gives the curious a library larger than any that ever existed. It shrinks distance, accelerates progress, and amplifies creativity. Without it, we are not doomed, but we are diminished. We are slower to respond, slower to learn, slower to dream. We are lonelier. We are less. And so, when we imagine a world without the internet, we are reminded of what it truly is. Not a distraction, not a luxury, but an organ of our modern lives, a second nervous system, a pulse that runs through humanity. To lose it is to lose part of ourselves. To keep it and to use it wisely is to shape a future brighter than any past. This was the story of a world without the internet, but it is also the story of us, of who we are when we are connected,